Are we live? Are we here? Welcome to the Steve Gosney Show, 8 o'clock, Thursday. What are we, February 1st? Wanted to welcome you all. I don't know if anybody's going to show up anymore. I don't know if audio, video good. Shane, thank you very much. Shane Sousa in the old chat as my dependable friend there. Thank you. And a little different. One of the things I've decided to do is stream the things that I want to stream and do the things that I want to do. That was one of the recommendations that we had for going forward and having a sustainable channel, something I can do once in a while. And so I wanted to say hello. Are we live on Rumble also? Just want to check. If so, say hello, Rumble. Here we go. Hello, Rumblers. Okay, good. We're live there. Usually Bella the Bayou's right there. Yeah, and see, I'm now StreamYard. You don't know this backstory. StreamYard used to truncate, like you couldn't see the Rumble chat on the StreamYard. So what I'd have to do is open up another window and then watch the Rumble chats. But now every time we'd say, did you enjoy the stream? And I'm like, yes, but better integration with Rumble. So I'm very happy. So now see, I did that over on Rumble, so I can click there. And so let's just get started. This is a little different. You're just going to have to indulge me. This is complete Gosney fanboy. It's going to be a little different tonight because it's like, why am I streaming? Because I wanted to talk about some stuff that's going on in my life that I didn't get to last time because the whole Murdoch thing broke, and y'all wanted to see, people see me for the law stream. But this is going to be more about personal stuff and personal Gosney fanboying. So let's see who's it. We got Shane. Thank you. Let's see who else we got. Holly. Thank you. Yes, good looking kid, isn't he? Yeah, my son he's a good looking kid. He's 19, sophomore at Embry-Riddle, and wife's not too bad either. She's pretty cute. Let's see. CR Jr. Just Joy. Yes, thank you, Just Joy. Sue. AJMECD. What does that stand for? Is that an acronym for something? And then Bella the Bayou. Okay, see, Bella the Bayou's there. I knew you'd be here. Good to see you. Biff Franz, good to see you. And I saw you in some chats. I began and ended part 2 of Joe's stream the other night. He was doing a 24-hour stream. I don't know. People are nuts. Texas Jen, good to see you. And Hellhound's Corner. Hellhound's, glad to see your own thing. Hidden gem from Rakita's old streams gotten crazy there. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's too late for me. I mean, 12 o'clock midnight, it's too late for me. I mean, I'll go on there if the moon's align or whatever, but it's just tough. I mean, midnight is past my bedtime. I'm passing out at that point. And so that's when he starts. And I want to be at my best one with y'all. So that's just not going to happen, So the last time I went on, he had like a daytime stream, and I was like, "Well, this is cool. We can do a daytime stream." So I don't know what's going on over there. And here's another thing: like, I do my own thing. I'm my own man because I'm sitting there next to somebody doesn't mean I adopt anything that they say, or the other way, or doesn't mean that I disagree. I'm just there, right? It's not my stream or it's not my thing. It's like I represent death penalty people who have mass murderers, right? Does that make me a death penalty? How dare you defend those mass murderers, right? I mean, it's like this, how we get this guilt by association. I think it's sort of a tangent of this cancel culture and the simple thinking of like, well, I'm connecting like what groups is this tribalism thing. You can disagree and I'll disagree, and I've got my opinions, and by opening my ears and listening to what somebody else is saying, then maybe I'll learn something, right? And so because I'm standing there listening to somebody I disagree with, that means I agree with them now, or if I don't stand up and shout from the hills that I'm morally superior to them, it's so ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. I get value. I try to, and here's another. Okay, see, now we're not even in the topic yet. We're just starting to talk. I try to get the best out of people, and I try to see the best in people. Now that makes me a little naive, I know, And I'm not a good judge of character, as I've explained and confessed to you. My son can see right through people. So thank God he's got that. My friend Ryan Bellinger also is really good at reading people. He says it's really my blindness towards people may stem from my being a single parent or a single son, or what is it? My dad not being in the equation or being raised by a single mom. I don't know. That's Ryan's theory, and it's possible because I think I've done pretty good otherwise. So I'm sure there's some lingering effects in different areas of my life. Um, so if that's the cost, then that's the cost. But okay, but back to the point, you look to somebody who's different from you and you learn from them and you admire them and say, okay, what does this person have to offer me as a person? And what can I learn from them? I mean, are they completely without value? Are you just going to look at them and say, I don't like this component of your character, so I'm just going to not associate with you? Or would it be better to say, no, look at this gem of a thing that is a part of you, and and look at that gem, and I want to be more like that thing that's good. It's kind of like, are you looking at the negative or the positive, right? So when you look at somebody, don't just mark them off because they have faults. We all have faults. Nobody's perfect, but we make ourselves better by projecting onto the other the thing that you admire and then lifting ourselves up to that point. Ginger with a soul, yo. So Holly, yes, we see here. So Holly's right on the money. We've lost the ability to simply disagree but still like people. Well, it seems that way. That's what the culture wants us to do. But fight against that tendency. Good to see you, Sue. West Coast, Sue. Yeah, too late. That's dreams. So, and I talk a little bit about that in Prepare, but well, I talk about my friend Mac, and I'll talk about my friend Mac. All my friends, my late friends, right? No, I really do have friends. They just all passed away, right? So it's like, what is this? But no, my friend Mac, who had colon cancer and died about 2 years ago, I guess. And I will say that 15, 20 years ago, I could not have been friends with Mac. And it's because I was too hard. I was too judgmental. And I'm very conscientious. I'm extremely high. I'm like in top 0.1% of conscientious people. So little things really bother me. Like I start my streams right on time. It's like I'm watching that clock and 1 second, boom, right on there, right? I'm very dependable, predictable. When somebody makes a commitment to me, I'm writing it down, right? I'm going, okay. So, but Mac is completely the opposite, completely flighty. Nick Rekieta is that way. Nick Rekieta is very flighty, very spur of the moment, doesn't plan, not dependable, and it drives me nuts. Okay. Well, do I just discount him and say, well, to hell with you? Or do I see, there's things I like about him too. So, but my friend Mac, I kind of associate with Nick like that. So, in Mac, I remember because he was so flighty, but he was such a nice guy. He was really fun. He was a really fun guy to be around. He had a great people sense. And when you're around him, you're just happy. And he was funny. He had great stories. I got so many good stories about Mac. And we used to hang out, but he was completely undependable. I mean, and then it's funny because he'd call up. He kind of knew it, but he knew how to schmooze enough. Like, he was a public defender up in Flagler, and he was great at negotiating deals, right? So he would schmooze deals that I never could schmooze the deals he'd schmooze, but he'd schmooze, and he could just get the killer deals for his clients. Well, me, on the other hand, I just show up and they raise the offer because I'm all about fight and scorch and burn and litigate. And the clients really liked me because I'm fighting for them. And our clients, generally, their biggest fear is that you're going to sell them out to the state. You're selling them. You're on their team. You're not on my team. So when you're out there fighting, the clients really like that, right? Because he's a bulldog. He's a fighter. And I got Ghazi. He's going to give emotion and do that. And I would, but I will say that honestly, Mac got a lot better deals. The cases that were tried, I mean, it was better that he negotiate the deal because you lose and you're going to get scorched, right? So we all have our own ways. So Mac and I got to be buddies with Mac, and eventually what would happen is I would try his cases. So any cases that he couldn't work out, because he didn't like trying, he didn't like conflict. He wanted to schmooze the judge. He wasn't no expert on the law, you know, and he would just so I'd handle anything that was really adversarial, including his jury trials, and he loved it. So I would just do all his jury trials. I'd let him pick the juries because I'm not good with people, and then I'd run the case, the whole thing, front, beginning, middle to end, and it was great. So I loved it. So I just parachuted in, fought the good fight, and win or lose. But I mean, I like trying the cases and fighting and calling the state on everything. And you know, I remember that I had this one trial we had over in Putnam County with Mac. We called it the honeybee case. I remember it was ridiculous, and I had moved for mistrial 4 times before 10:30 in the morning. It's like the Tuesday, like we picked the jury on Monday, we went Tuesday, and before 10:30 in the morning, I had 4 motions for mistrial already, like objection, and the state attorney was a young guy who actually, you know, I think he just got appointed to judge, but he was actually a really nice prosecutor. He was a nice guy. He was young, he was learning, and he just didn't know what he was doing. Right? And it's like, well, we all what do you call it? We always do it that way. Well, that doesn't fly with me. You do it that way? Well, you're wrong. You know, do it the right way. And we had a great judge who ended up being appointed to a federal trial judge in Orlando. It was Mendoza. Judge was really good. And he was sustaining all of my objections. He didn't grant my mistrials, but he was sustaining my objections and lectured and going. He was hard. And that prosecutor was so rattled that morning. The thing is then he was giving me, like, our case wasn't that strong, but he wasn't doing it right, and I was making him pay. It was so much fun. And I remember afterwards, Judge Mendoza, the prosecutor, was so rattled. I think it was his first jury trial, and afterwards the judge brought us back in chambers and was complimenting us, and you know, and he was encouraging the kid, and he was a good. I liked that prosecutor. He was doing things wrong, but he wasn't taking my objections personally. He was listening. He didn't know, and he was learning. And so it wasn't like, I know everything, and God, you're a bad guy because you're objecting to me, and I'm right, and I'm righteous. You know, instead he was like, I'm trying to do the right thing. He's learning, and he's feeling his way, and he was humble enough to recognize that. So I'm just telling you a story. So Mac was so undependable, and he'd call me up like, Cosme, you know, we got to go shooting Friday, right? What do you think? And I'm like, yeah, Friday shooting. So I'll meet you there later. And he's like, oh, I'll call you, right? You know, we'll arrange. This is what Mac would do. And then he wouldn't call. And I'm sitting there like, got my guns ready. They're all clean. And I'm ready to go shooting. And then he's just, where's Mac? And he wouldn't show. And then, like, you know, Monday or Tuesday the next week, he'd, it's something wrong. It was like, I think he drank a lot too, you know, but he was a character. And but the thing is, so what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that he was a very different person. He was a very opposite person to me, but yet I valued him, and I valued there was a lot of good, and I enjoyed being around him. So it's like, okay, here's the flaw. Can I accept that flaw? Can I accept the fact that he's just an undependable guy? If I can get over that, then I can access the good that he had to offer in the friendship. And so I think that, you know, recently, or more recently, as I've grown older, I'm becoming a little bit more flexible, just a little bit, and able to accept somebody like that. So, so that's just my, yeah. So Sue's got a comment. She says people in the Midwest and Southeast are more humble and less confrontational. Yeah. So anyways, hello, Just JK. Good to see you. All right. Well, anyway, so that was kind of first thing. I didn't expect to talk about that. I'm just telling stories. And this is just me telling stories, having fun. Now, I want to tell you about what I did last Saturday. Shane knows what I did last Saturday. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the book fair. So I went to the Sunshine State Book Festival in Gainesville, Florida, at University of Florida. And there was about 250 authors there. And I displayed my books. I went primarily for Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, but I displayed my other books. and I sold, I probably broke even for the trip. I mean, it wasn't selling out. I got to see a lot of other authors, and they all have the same problems. How do you sell books? How do you get your books in front of people? It's a big question. Everybody's got their book. I will say, if I don't sound too arrogant, and that's my problem. I say be humble. One of my sins, one of my many sins, is arrogance, right? So if I get too certain and too confident and too cocky, I always pay. So with that in mind, I will dip my toe in that pool and say, I think Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog was the best children's book there. And I will also say, I think my other books um, go. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that really wasn't that great. So I'm very happy. I think my covers are very professional. Um, and I'm very happy with the art, the cover art, and the content. I think is good. I bought a couple books, and when I cracked them and started reading them, I'm like, this is not good. And so just giving you Brucey. I think Brucey is a great book, and I think my really, if I'm going to be honest, like Death Penalty Debates and Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog are really the ones that I think have the most popular appeal. Ideas and Answers is much more of an academic tome that's to the public defender world and to defense attorneys generally, criminal defense lawyers. Prepare is to my friends. That's my personal tome to you, and the way to survive hard times and to make your life better. So that's the one I want you to read. Okay, you, my friends who are watching this tonight, that's the one I hope that you read. But as far as like mass market appeal, Death Penalty Debates and Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, for different reasons, of course. I will say also that I think, Jackson, My Difficult Dog, I'm going to try to get that. I'm targeting next Christmas. So, middle of next year. I've been working on my fantasy novel. Here's the map, right? I've working on my fantasy novel, but that's going to happen. I think that I'm going to put that aside for a little bit because I'm going to go back and work on death penalty designs. Now, it's funny because I think commercially, if I was a bookseller, if I was really an author, I would work on the fantasy novels. If that was my thing. But the death penalty designs is a training manual for capital appellate attorneys in Florida. So there's like 30, 40 of us, and 40 of us in Florida probably. So that book has an audience of about 40 people. But you know who the audience that I really is? By writing it, I become more expert in it. Right. Um, so I need to do that for myself in my job, my real job. So I think I'm going to start putting that on the front burner again, working on that and putting aside the fantasy novel. Even though I love the fantasy novel, I'm enjoying it. I think I need to shift gears and put some time into the other one and see how far I can get there because because I'm going to be orally arguing in the Florida Supreme Court pretty soon on the death penalty. And I've got another death penalty case coming in that I'm going to have to argue. So I really need to really make myself an expert on capital in Florida. And that's the way I do that is by writing. It says, they're not good or books that you're personally not interested in. I would say both, sadly. I looked through a number of them and I couldn't really, I hate to say that. It sounds so arrogant, doesn't it? But yeah, so Shane, we didn't have enough time. Book festival was packed and hectic. I think I need to find I don't think the book festival route is the way to go for me either. I need to find other outlets, like places where people are that I can sit in my little booth or something like an art festival or someplace where there's people that will actually are there to buy stuff and look for stuff. Because the book festival, it's all authors trying to do the same thing and it's not very focused. I don't know. I'm still thinking about marketing. Marketing is the big issue. And I think that I just don't know. I don't know. It's something I got to think about later. But I'm just really looking to break even. But it would be nice if I got a contract or a book contract or something. But it's not happening. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. All right. So Sue, you couldn't find me? I was there. They put me in kind of the corner though. I had I probably had the worst table in the entire room. I was on the list. I was on the site. It's still there. Um, so whatever. Just Joy, good to see you. Trying to handle the grandbaby. Oh, that's wonderful and love. Jay Leaguebot shows up. All right, good to see you. All right, well, so what else do we? So we spent the whole day in Gainesville. We spent the night in Gainesville. We had a little author reception. There were some very nice people there, and the people were nice, and they were interesting people. The guy next to me was brilliant. He was a PhD. What was it? He's some kind of like engineering professor from Purdue. He's a really neat guy. I talked to him for a lot of time, and then listen to the person to my right. I was like, at first I thought it was some real far out lefty liberal type that I wouldn't get along with but as the day progressed, her husband starts looking at my books, and he's like, he pulls out this book and he says, basically he'd read my entire reading list from Prepare. So he had read every one except one of those books. So we start talking. Then I find out that his wife is a big fan of Robert A. Johnson, who does He and She. I think I've showed you those books. Those are some of the most influential books that influenced me. And not only that, she has read every book by Robert Johnson. She is the first person I've ever met that's read every book by Robert Johnson, as have I, other than myself. And so we were talking, and she actually met Robert Johnson, which to me is cool. So Jacob Castro, good to see you. So they bought a bunch of my books next to it. So it was neat to have people buying my books there, and other fellow authors buying the books, but there weren't enough people. I don't know. Do people even read anymore? That's why I put Death Penalty Debates up on audiobook, on Audible, and Amazon, and somebody's left me a nice review. So thank you. So we spent the whole day in Gainesville. We had lunch with Shane Sousa, and who's our mod here. Thank you, Shane. Had fun, and then we went back, and then I came home, and we had tickets to the Lou Gramm concert. Now, who knows who Lou Gramm is? Lou Gramm is an interesting fellow. I wasn't a big. I'll just admit it. I wasn't a huge fan. I liked Lou, right? You know who Lou is? He was the lead singer for a band called Foreigner. And Foreigner has sold over 80 million records. When I was growing up, like 1978 to 80s, Foreigner, they put out so many hits. It was crazy. They just dominated. It was like very radio friendly stuff. Now, as a musician, it wasn't as shimmering as it wasn't it was good, but it wasn't great, but Foreigner. But everybody knows the song. I want to know what love is, right? I want you to show me that song was number one across the world. And that was Lou Gramm. That's Lou Gramm, the singer for Foreigner. And he was in Foreigner. They did Jukebox Heroes, the song Hot Blooded, songs Urgent, Feels Like the First Time. So many good songs. Excited Utterance, Raid. Welcome, Excited Utterance. Good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, say hi and click the like. So I went and saw Lou Gramm. Now, like I said, I didn't go see it for Lou Gramm. I went and saw it. Okay, I hear you. I see the EUs coming in. I went to see it because my buddy Tony Franklin was going to play bass with Lou Gramm. Cold as Ice, one of the greats. Double Vision, great song. Feel my eyes, I got double vision. Another one is Head Games. Really great stuff. They got so many great songs. They're performing at the Super Bowl halftime show. I don't know. Now, Lou Gramm's no longer with them. All their hits stopped. And Flux is here? Holy cow. Good to see you. Excited Utterance and Flux. You guys, what did I do to deserve this? Well, Flux is here. Me, Raid. Good to see you, Flux. Yes, and so we're talking about, to catch up, we already talked some philosophy and stuff, but now we're talking about Lou Gramm of Foreigner. Now, I read in anticipation, because I'm a Tony Franklin fanboy, I admit it. When I was growing up, my number one band of all time is Led Zeppelin. So let's just dive into do we know who Lou Gramm is, Foreigner? He's got a great autobiography. I read it. I bought his autobiography in anticipation of seeing this show, and he comes across a very nice guy. I highly recommend his autobiography. And I read rock autobiographies. That's sort of my fun hobby. And my two favorite are Red, which is Sammy Hagar's. Sammy Hagar's autobiography is excellent. And the other really good one is Don Felder. Don Felder's used to be with the Eagles, wrote Hotel California. His autobiography is excellent. But Lou Gramm, very good autobiography. And Tony Franklin's working on his, and I hope he gets it. But I want to talk. So I read this autobiography, very good, nice guy. Flux needs a lesson on how to stream on Rumble. I can do that for you, Flux. Let's talk. Yeah, so Lou Gramm, great singer. I mean, if you want to go see him in his day. Now, he had a massive tumor in his brain and had to have it removed. They thought he was going to, the first opinions were said, you're dead. This was back in the early 90s, I think. And they gave him a life sentence. They said, you're dead. He went and got a second opinion. They said, well, they have this experimental surgery, but it's like you have a 40% chance of survival. Well, 40% is better than zero, right? So he did the surgery, and he was in a coma for a month or so, and he forgot everything. He gained a lot of weight, just forgot, couldn't sing. It was just a disaster. But he has recovered. He's still alive, and he's still here. He's still kicking. And he was singing. Now, his voice is not as great as it was, but it got stronger as the night went on. The show was really good. This was Lou Gramm before. It was the Lou Gramm All-Stars at the Peabody Auditorium in Daytona Beach. My mom saw Elvis Presley at the Peabody in 1957. How's that? So let me see. There's so much to tell you. I saw Ozzy Osbourne with Randy Rhoads on guitar at the Peabody Auditorium. And the opening act was Def Leppard off the High and Dry tour. And we had the first concert I ever saw was at the Peabody Auditorium in Daytona Beach. And it was War at the Why Can't We Be Friends tour. I was 8 years old. And the singer came out into the audience, and I sang Why Can't We Be Friends with the lead singer of War. And I was 8, and I was a little kid, and we were like the only white people there. It was all black people. But War is still a great band. Criminally underrated band. Great. Get The World Is a Ghetto. Why Can't We Be Friends is phenomenal. They're really good. Cisco Kid. I heard Cisco Kid was a friend of mine. You heard that song? So I'm getting we're just talking. This is just me having fun. It's just you and us sitting down. You're just hearing stories and we're talking, right? Like, why am I streaming? Just because it's fun. And you can hear my stories. And my wife and son have heard it a million times. So you get to hear it the first time. Feels like the first time. Okay. So we went to this show, and Tony Franklin's on bass. Well, Tony just got back surgery. So Tony Franklin, my buddy. All right, so how do I know? Who is Tony Franklin? You're probably saying, well, what's this guy, Tony? Why are you such a geek? Well, Zeppelin was my number one band. Love Zeppelin in the 70s, right? If you read The Summer Friends, you'll know this. And, well, of course, before I got into Zeppelin, John Bonham up and dies, 1980, and John Bonham's dead. So Zeppelin's broken up before I even started listening to him. I was listening on the bus, and then it's like, oh yeah, I love Zeppelin. Oh, the drummer died 8 months ago. Oh, great. And, they're no longer around. So, but of course, Jimmy Page, come on. I mean, Jimmy Page, greatest guitar player. I think he's the greatest guitar player of all time. Rock guy. Now it's like, well, he's sloppy or whatever, but great songwriter, great performer, musical innovator. Those songs, Zeppelin's not a bad song on the entire catalog. Genius, beautiful, feeling. Jimmy Page, you're great. I love Jimmy Page. And Zeppelin was the incarnation. It was Jimmy Page, right? Jimmy Page, that was his vision of a band. And so The question on the table is, what did he do after Led Zeppelin? Well, he he kind of drifted, and people know the band Bad Company and Free. Well, the singer for that band is a guy named Paul Rogers. Paul Rogers, who later on became singer of Queen after Freddie Mercury died. He toured with Queen. Great voice. One of the greatest voices in rock and roll is Paul Rogers of Bad Company. Paul Rogers was a friend of the band Led Zeppelin. Paul Rogers, great singer. Fedor Fordoresky, good to see you there. Hey, Bruce. And let's see. So let's talk about, what did Jimmy Page do? Well, he kind of got, I mean, I think, and I'll say it's very sad for me to admit, especially about one of my guitar heroes, but I really think that Jimmy Page lost some dexterity in his hands. And I really attribute it, I'm just guessing, to drug use. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But it just seems like he loses something later in the Zeppelin career, like after 76, 77. Something's wrong, like a connection between his hands, or something's up. Now, I mean, if you watch the 73 show in Madison Square Garden with him, and its song remains the same, unbelievable. I mean, it's jaw-droppingly great, the music. I mean, Since I've Been Loving You, No Quarter, Dazed and Confused on Song Remains the Same are just epic. So, but the thing is, I think that he lost his band, he lost his way, and he was such a great man. He is so great in so many ways. I think he was very well respected, and we musicians did not want to lose him. And I think Paul Rogers, this is my speculation, I think Paul Rogers reached out to Jimmy Page and wanted to get him back in the game, back in the action, and save his life. And thank God he did. God bless Paul Rogers, and so what did he do? Well, he formed a little band, and he decided to pick up a guy named Chris Slade. Chris, I think he was with Manfred Mann Band, but most people know Chris Slade. Well, he also played with David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. When David Gilmour went on tour, it was an About Face album, is Chris Slade. But the big thing that Chris Slade is known for is AC/DC. Yes, Porcelain Thunder got it. Okay, so yeah, talk amongst yourselves. See, now we're talking music in the chat. Now we're talking, because this is what I love talking about music. And so we're here, and I want to talk about what I want to talk about. I want to talk about music. So I'm just talking about the whole panoply of music and what a nerd I am. So Paul Rogers got this band. He got Chris Slade, Jimmy Page on guitar. Come on board, right? Let's hike along. I'll carry you across the finish line. And who's the bass player? Tony Franklin. Tony Franklin was a bass player. Where did Tony Franklin come from? Well, he played with a guy named Roy Harper. I don't know if anybody's heard Roy Harper, but Roy Harper was quite the minstrel in England. And Zeppelin has a song called Hats Off to Roy Harper. All right. Roy Harper's a guy. He was respected by the men in Pink Floyd. There's the only guest vocalist Pink Floyd has ever had on a song is, other than the, singing on Dark Side, but is Welcome to the Machine. Welcome to the Machine, that voice, that is Roy Harper. So he is a kind of a English folk singer. Lily, welcome on board. We're here. We're just talking. We're talking music tonight. And I'm just blasting you with this is all my deep dive Gosney music fanboydom. So that's what you're here to see tonight. And follow along. If you're not interested in that, then that's what we're going to talk about. But we're talking about Tony Franklin. So Tony Franklin then joins this band, and they do a deal for 2 albums, 2 Firm albums. The first is The Firm, and the second album is called The Firm's. Oh, Have a Cigar. Jacob Castro, you're right. Have a Cigar was the song. Yeah, you're right. Okay, Porcelain Thunder. Y'all correct me. It wasn't Welcome to the Machine. It was Have a Cigar. That is Roy Harper. You're right. Okay, so and I do have a cigar. When we start fundraising for Bruce or Jackson, I've got this cigar. My wife bought me this cigar. Isn't that nice of her? And it's up there. We'll get to it eventually. Oh, and here's the She and He by Robert Johnson. See there? Got that handy. And I got to read Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis. That's on my reading list. Um, so, let me go here. So, yes, yeah. If we're gonna smoke a cigar, it's got to be for some real money because Ginger with the Soul's got it right. The wife does not happy with me ever smoking in the house. She's like, I even told her, I said, what if I was $500? She's like, no. I think the number is about $800. So when we get to that point, I will. When we have a big stream, we'll do it. But who used to do drum tech for Judas Priest? Lynn Dalton. I got to go back now. I'm curious. Captain Z. Yeah, Zeppelin discovered a bad company. They signed their label Swan Song. See, Captain Z, you're a super fan. You're exactly right. That's right. Okay, so what are we talking? We're talking Tony Franklin. So we get who Tony Franklin is. Now, I am a Zeppelin fanboy, Jimmy Page on the top of the mountain. And this band comes out with a firm with this lineup, which is really a super group. Danielle's here. We're talking music, Danielle. Gosney music. Good to see you. Welcome. And I pull out that record. I'm expecting Zeppelin, right? Of course, it's not Zeppelin. It's Paul Rodgers did a lot of the songwriting, I think. But it's really good. I like it. It's excellent. Excellent. And I'm a bass player, and the thing that stood out was the bass. I think the star of the firm was the bass player, Tony Franklin. I mean, I was like, and my playing is really top three guys is Iron Maiden, Steve Harris, Geddy Lee from Rush, and Sting and the Police. Those are really my three bass influences, right? But then there's kind of a second level of people that I listened to that I really appreciated, that I liked as bass players. And those people were Tony Franklin, Chris Squire of Yes, who I could never reach that. He was better than I could play. He was more educated. I'm the ear player. And also Taylor from Duran Duran. Amazingly, Duran Duran is a really good bass player. So those were kind of my first and second tier. Those were probably my six biggest influences for bass playing. So Tony Franklin's right up there, probably top five in my book. Now, I never could play. He was known as the fretless, or he is known as the fretless monster. Okay. In fact, okay, and you guys, Tony Franklin also played on Outrider, which is Jimmy Page's solo album. He did not tour with that band, but most of the bass on that album is Tony Franklin. So we'll go through it. So who is Tony Franklin? He is the bass player that played with Jimmy Page after Led Zeppelin in the post-Zeppelin band, The Firm. So then what? So The Firm went for 2 records, and Tony Franklin played a bass solo at a sold-out Madison Square Garden. Him alone on the stage in New York City, playing Madison Square Garden, doing a 10-minute bass solo. How cool is that? Holy cow. He says that's one of the highlights of his career. You can also go and see his channel. He talks about introducing Jimmy Page to Jaco Pastorius. Anybody knows who Jaco Pastorius is? One of the greatest bass players to ever live. So that's another great Tony Franklin. So then what happened? Well, then if you remember the Whitesnake album from '87, the huge Whitesnake album, that was primarily written by a fellow named John Sykes. And he was like a rock star. I mean, the guy had it all: singing, vocals, everything. And when that album came out, it was huge. But then David Coverdale fired the whole band. And nobody knows Sykes wasn't in any of the videos. Well, the videos were big on MTV, and everybody thought that it was these other people that were all replacements for the original band. Well, so what did John Sykes do? John Sykes went out and formed a band called Blue Murder. And Blue Murder consisted of John Sykes from Whitesnake, Carmine Appice. Okay, Carmine Appice is a legendary drummer. He's got a big handlebar mustache. You ever seen him? He looks like a 70s porn star. And he's a great drummer. And he wrote the song "Do You Think I'm Sexy" by Rod Stewart. A legendary. He played with what's the name of the band? He played with a lot of bands. Carmine Appice, a real influential drummer. And bass, Tony Franklin. So Tony Franklin went with this supergroup, and it did a band called Blue Murder. And Blue Murder was excellent. Now, I will tell you, this is another little insight into who Tony Franklin is. At the time, Roger Waters left Pink Floyd and offered the bass gig to who? Tony Franklin. But Tony Franklin had already committed. Yeah, Vanilla Fudge, you got it. See there, Carmine played for Vanilla Fudge. Yeah, so Tony Franklin turned down the bass gig in Pink Floyd. Do you remember the recent Kate Bush explosion? There was a Kate Bush song, Running Down That Hill or Running Up That Hill. And David Gilmour plays with Kate Bush, and there's a live video. I think it was on some kind of YouTube or it was some kind of thing, and it exploded about a month or a year ago or something. Well, that live video, Tony Franklin's playing with David Gilmour. And he's associated with David Gilmour. So he's been in just, and then of course then he became a studio musician. Like, let me see if I can give you some of his resume. So here's some other people he's played with, but mostly it was The Firm that I like him. Roy Harper, The Firm, Jimmy Page, Paul Rogers, Blue Murder, David Gilmour, Kate Bush, Whitesnake. So Tony Franklin played with Whitesnake. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Does anybody know Kenny Wayne Shepherd? And Lou Gramm. And he's playing with the Lou Gramm band now. So that is Tony Franklin. Now, I've always been a fan, and then he has these things called cameos. All right. So recently I found this thing, my son, Cameo, where you can buy somebody to give you a hello, right? And I saw Tony Franklin on there, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I didn't really know him. I mean, I remember him from the videos and that stuff, but it's like, what has he been doing? Well, he's been a studio musician. I can just read some of the resume. I mean, well, I could probably share this. Yeah, we can share this. Check out the resume of this guy. I'm just fanboying out on Tony Levin. All right, that's today. We got it. So look at the records this guy's been on. Roy Harper, The Firm, David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, Outrider, Roy Harper, Blue Murder, Glenn Hughes, more Roy Harper, Tony McAlpine, you know that guy? Jeff Beck Tribute Beckology, Tony McAlpine, Warren DeMartini, guitar player for Rat, Carmine Appice. There's Carmine, you see there. Marty Friedman from Megadeth. He's played on True Obsessions. Holy cow. Graham Bonnet. Graham Bonnet used to sing with Rainbow and Alcatraz. Michael Schenker Group. There's John Sykes. Look at these records he's played on. Derek Sheridan. This guy's an unbelievable player. Gary Wright. Pearl. Lana Lane. Solo record. Derek Sheridan, Roy and Harper again. Let's see here. Quiet Riot. Frankie Banali, Quiet Riot. Ripper Owens, Tim Ripper Owens. Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Going Home. This is quite a resume, wouldn't you say? So here's Tony right here. Yeah. So what else can we fanboy about? Yeah, David Gilmour, amazing. So I kind of got to know him through this Cameo thing, but really nice guy. You know, the thing is, it was like so cheap. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. It was like $35, $45 or something. And he did these really nice, because I had all these questions. He's like geek questions about like, what were you playing here? What were you playing here? And he gives me these long, like 10-minute cameos. You know, I did another one with somebody else who shall remain nameless that I like, who's I'm a fanboy of. And he just said like, yeah, I remember that show that I was at, you know, Rock On. It was like a minute and a half. throwaway, and it was more expensive. And Tony gave me this whole rundown and explained it and really thoughtful and just a super nice guy, right? So that's that. Now, what else has Tony Franklin done? Well, in that original Firm album, okay, so I got so much to see. I got a lot to tell you about. See, my son, I'm going to get it all out so that I don't have to, my son doesn't have to hear me talk about him anymore. When we went and saw him at Lou Gramm concert, he actually arranged for backstage passes for me. Just me and my son and my wife to meet him and his wife. And I am just so humbled and flattered. Now, you know, it's funny because it's like, just give me 5 minutes of your time and there's a million people, right? But he was very nice, but he's had back surgery. So he's in pain. Now he's having to sit down and play. It's really kind of a shame. But he did sign my Firm album. See there? To Steve, all the best, Tony Franklin. That's the Firm. That's the first Firm album, which is the one that, I mean, he did a song called Radioactive. And there's a fretless line in there. It's so iconic. All right, so let's keep going. Also, on that record, he had a Fender Precision bass, and he modified it. He put a jazz bass pickup on the back of it and modified it and did some switching and to customize this bass. And that was the bass he played on this album. And Fender approached him. Now, Fender is the original electric bass was done by Fender. The Fender Precision bass was like from way back in the early 50s. And and for decades, if you played electric bass, you played Fender bass. That was it. I mean, there were some other oddballs, but it was really Fender bass. Now, Rickenbackers were sort of a thing. There's the Beetle bass, right? Or something, the Gibson EBO bass. But hold on one second. I actually have to take a break, a little restroom break. So 1 minute, all right? Let's talk amongst yourselves, right? Radioactive. Hold on a second. All right, sorry about that. A little break. See there, this is like I'm so excited to see I get to talk about stuff. So Tony Franklin built this precision bass. Now he's the fretless monster, and he's known for this. Right? Yeah, Becca Lynn's right. Radioactive. If you haven't heard this song, it's so cool. Watch the video of him and Jimmy Page. How cool Jimmy Page is! And you'll see Tony Franklin's got this hair that's giant, and he plays the fretless, and there's that cool bass line. So, yeah, Stevie, he loves sharing my knowledge. Actually, not really. He doesn't like me talking about Tony Franklin. He gets embarrassed by his dad. So let me talk about this bass. So this bass, Fender was it's probably the premier. When you're a bass player, that's the standard. Now, I will say that then basses like the Spectres came out. There was a whole movement of new basses. The Music Man around 1976, 77. But from about the early 50s to 77, really the instrument you'd play was a Fender bass. And Fender's still one of the largest musical instrument manufacturers in the world. And I love Fender instruments. Well, if you want a Fender Precision, which is kind of the standard, and you want it in fretless Fender Precision, you get this baby right here. And this baby right here, look at that fretless, is a Tony Franklin Fender Precision fretless. modeled after his. Look at that. Is that beautiful? See, it's got this is the precision pickup, and this is the jazz pickup. It's a DiMarzio jazz pickup. And he put this switch. So you got the front way, that's this pickup, back is this pickup, and in the middle is both pickups. And then you have volume and tone. So it's a very simple design. It's a beautiful black ebony fretboard. It has what they call a drop D tuner right here. You see this little device? So you can drop this D down and that like that, and that makes the sound go. So you can hear it. Let's see. Let me see. See that? You see, drop. It goes from E to D just at the flick of that switch, and it's got this. Let's see if I can. See? Fretless precision. Beautiful instrument. And his bass, he's got one called Sunny that he plays. That's basically this instrument. This is what he plays, but he's been off the shelf. It's got a standard, but beautiful, beautiful bass. And so this is a Tony Franklin. These been built for like 15, 20 years. So Tony Franklin has a Fender signature bass, and it's a precision. I mean, for a bass player, that's top of the mountain to have a signature instrument. And so he is one of them. I'll tell you, the other, you can get a Fender fretless jazz bass with the jazz pickups, which is two of these kind of pickups. And that bass is the Jaco Pastorius signature model. So you got Tony Franklin and Jaco Pastorius. So he is a very well-respected bass player. Now, I can't really play fretless, but I can play fretted. And this, my friends, is my son's number one. And this is a Tony Franklin fretted bass. So see, it's got the frets here. He's tuned this. Like, right? So that's a Tony Franklin fretted bass. See there, Tony Franklin? These are quite rare. You can't buy these anymore. This is super cool. So United, all my instruments are United States, basically American-made instruments, all of them. In fact, I had one that is even all American parts assembled in Mexico. It was great. It was perfect. It was a Fender guitar, but I knew it had been assembled in Mexico. I had to get rid of it. It was psychological. That's how picky I am. What a jerk. But this is a Tony Franklin fretted precision bass that is very rare and very hard to get. And this is my son's number one bass. So, let's see. This is how picky it gets. So I'll show you some pictures now of, and this is, I hope you don't mind me nerding out, but this is what I do. I'll present, let's see, share screen. Yeah, so I'll see if you can see this. No, no, you can't do it. Okay, hold on. I'll get it here. Share screen. Yeah, okay. So here I'll show you some pictures. Can you see that? Yeah, so there's my son and my wife and me with my Firm album, and there's Tony Franklin backstage at the Peabody Auditorium in Daytona Beach, Florida. That's just great. So here's another one. That's him with his wife, where he's signing my record right there. And we were the only ones. We are the only ones there. You see, there's this backstage after the Lou Gramm show. Super cool. Super cool. And I got to talk to him a little bit. He gave me his time. And, as a fan, it's kind of like, just all I want is 5 minutes. But, there's so many people that need 5 minutes. And he was having back pain. He really shouldn't be on the road, but he's doing it. So I'll show you some other cool stuff. So I've got the Tony Franklin signed Firm record. I've got the Tony Franklin signed pick guard. See, there's his base right there. He's got Sonny. That's his base, Sonny, and that's this base right here. So, and he's signed to Steve and Steve for his 16th birthday. And there's some other memorabilia around in the back here that, like, his some music that he's done, and I have some various stuff. So so this is that was my Tony Franklin fanboy experience, and I'll show you one more thing. So here's what you need to do: is see here, Tony Franklin, the Fretless Farmer. I will say, and here's another cool connection about YouTube. Somebody in my chat, Sherry, I think it was, is friends with Tony Franklin's wife, and they're good friends. And she was the one she suggested. So one of my YouTube subscribers, one of my YouTube fans, is good friends with Tony Franklin's wife. So it's like pretty cool. Yeah, so you can go here. Like this is he tells the story. He's a great storyteller about when Jimmy Page and I met Jaco Pastorius. Very well worth. Watch this. It's great. Fanboy moment. Here's Tony Franklin 1984 firm bass solo and band intro. Talks about, it's all bass player stuff, right? So here he is with Lou Gramm. That's what he said. So this was I think that was in Daytona. Right? And then he has stuff like, let's see what the most popular video he has is. Oh, here he is. He talks about running up that hill, playing, like here he is with running on that hill. You see this? There he is. There he is right there with the hair. And there's David Gilmour. See that? That's pretty cool. So he tells you the story of that, and then all sorts of good stuff. So what's his most popular stuff here? Let's see. He plays Roundabout by Yes, which is funny because he's the fretless monster and he's playing a fretted bass there. So lots of good stories. If you're interested in this kind of stuff. All right, I'm gonna click out here. Yeah, he had huge hair in the day. All right, so that was so did I nerd out enough? So is this cool or what? Look at that. 2 Tony Franklin basses. I got his signature. I got to meet him. He gave me backstage passes. What a nice guy, huh? What a nice guy. And one of the nice guys in rock and roll, knows everybody, and he's going to be writing a book. I'd love to have him come on my channel and get interviewed, but you know, it's asking too much. He'll have a book agent, and it won't be, you know, I won't be on the list. So, but I had a moment, and it was a fanboy moment. Yeah, I love the firm too, Brad. I think it was good stuff. Yeah, I don't really know. Running Up That Hill, it did have a big comeback, and he talked. That's where he made that video, because he played on that live recording with David Gilmour, and it's out there, and it got exploded, and it's like, so everybody was asking him about it. So he did it. He told the whole story about how it happened, and actually, that performance is great. He's a really good. He's a groove player. He's not really flashy. He can be, but he's not. That's not his thing. Instead, it's like he serves the song. He's a musician. He's a musical guy, and that's what I like. I can't say my playing is super influenced by him, but the ear that he has, the philosophy, the serving of the song, he's really got he's just a true musician, and a nice guy, and you know, that's part of it too, getting along with others, right? All right, what else we got to talk about? So got all this stuff. Let me see if I can I'm going to show you one more thing. Now, you all have been following me, right? You guys know what's what. Okay, I'm just going to put this off without commentary. Have anybody heard? I'm just going to put this up for you all just to look at for a second. I'm not going to tell you anything, but you ever heard of there's a celebrity out there named Kim Kardashian? Does anybody know who that is? I'm just going to put this up and you can, without commentary, and I will just say, there we go. Kim Kardashian. All right. See that? Okay. Enough of that. So, anyways, all I know is that I'm happy that that certain celebrities put their weight behind things that are important. That's an important thing to be admired. All right, let's see. And there's lots of stuff coming up. You guys just pay attention to go over on legal vices. He's covering that case very well. Right. Um, I don't know. Do I have anything else? What time is it? It's 9 o'clock. Um, oh, legal minded friends, Karen Cole from England, right? Yeah, good to see you. All right. I think that's good. Some people have bought my coloring book, which I'm happy about. They did do that. That was nice. I need to go on some other streams, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to start work. I've got to work on death penalty designs. I don't know. I'm just sharing with you. Well, should we do the old handoff thing? Maybe we should do that. That would be nice, right? Let's see who's streaming. All right, and we'll do the old Ghazni raid thing. Okay, live. Who's live right now? Oh, there's one. Shizzy Wiznut's talking with Solomon Anderson. Okay, well, we got it. We got to do that. Right? All right, hold on. And remember, you got to do the Ghazni raid thing. Let me find out how we got to do this. Hope you enjoyed this stream. A little different, you know. I promise you not to nerd out too often, but I had sort of a I sort of had a fanboy moment. And I thought I would share that with you. Okay, we got customization. Okay. Redirect. I'm going to redirect to Shizzy. All right. And so when we do that, when it gets kicked over, you got to say Ghazni raid, right? You going to do that for me? I think it was. I always think that's so much fun. And thank you also for excited utterance and Flux for rating me. All right. Yeah, there was no getting. There was no getting here. Don't get impressed. We also, let's just leave that alone. That's there's no getting. All right, we got it. Going over to Shizzy's. Here we go. Ghazni raid, right?